Hi, Eric. I love you. Hello, Stephanie. I
Hello
love you too,
there.
of course. I am ready to introduce you as a new CE medium. And I want you to start out by telling us a little bit about you.
Super excited. Thank you for having me. Erik says, hi, Mom. He says, love you bunches, Mom. Love you, love you. And he says, you're going to, Erik says, you're going to get a load out of this one. She's a hoot.
Oh, yeah. Veronica highly recommended you. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about how you came to be.
Certainly. And Veronica Drake is actually one of my mentors who I totally just love dearly. She's beautiful and wonderful soul. I actually have been a medium since birth, but through my childhood, I had a lot of trauma and I repressed my gifts. And for many, many years, I would just randomly tell people things that I just knew. And there was a lot of shock value in that, a lot of predictions, precog, that sort of deal where I would just retain information and spirit would just speak to me and I would just know things by that.
Cool.
And so for many years, I struggled with it because I grew up in a very Catholic belief system.
Oh,
So
God. Why does that always happen?
yes, and so those religious beliefs and ideologies kind of carried with me, and I felt guilty about using my gifts at one point until I stepped out. And funny enough, about less than 3 years ago, Erik reached out to me in the most unconventional way through
Yeah.
my mother.
Yeah. Wow.
She was watching Jamie Channel, Tall Whites, and she is fascinated by extraterrestrials, even though she is very Christian. And it was quite the experience. She told me about the channel, and it wasn't so much what Jamie was channeling, it was the fact that she was doing it and that Erik was involved. And I said, you know what? I feel like I can do that. And it just came to me. And in that instance of watching it, I felt Erik's energy enter the room, and I heard an inner voice say, you can.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah, he can
so
test her too. You know that, right?
yes, yes. And so that's interesting that you say that because we experience many things in my house, lots of footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
He would knock on my refrigerator. The lights would flicker and my husband would be like, what's that? And so Erik has also become a staple in my household. He pops in sometimes in really fun, interesting ways while I'm cooking in the kitchen with my husband. And my husband is very familiar with Erik as well because they kind of have a little banter in between me.
Oh, can
um,
he hear him or?
So he can't hear him, but he does at times have visuals, and
Oh,
he hears his sounds that he makes.
oh no.
And he does feel some of his energy, so it is really interesting.
How's
Um,
their relationship?
it's funny. My husband is very sarcastic, so they're very tit for tat.
Oh, typical. That's awesome.
And so typically at the dinner table, I know that sounds funny, but that's when my husband is most calm. So I think that's when he can feel.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I'm sitting there and we're having dinner and Erik will just come out with a wise comment and I'll just relay that to my husband. And that's kind of how our dynamic works in our household.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, so then how did you get to know Veronica? Did you take her,
So,
is she your
so
mentor?
even,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so actually even before Veronica, I had a session with Raylene Nunez.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
I met with Raylene and we met a few times and Erik had come through in those sessions as well really strongly and he touched me and he moved my arm and then Raylene kind of explained to me that I had other abilities that I could later use such as trance channeling and that I was a lot stronger than what I thought I was because I really had no idea.
Yeah.
I just had these gifts and it's almost like you being a doctor but not knowing that you can perform surgery.
Yeah. Or
And
that I
so,
was a healer too, because a long time ago, and I never believed in any of this stuff. I went to my surgical suite to perform minor surgery, and my patient was kind of a bohemianly dressed person. I put a hand on her, and she said, "Oh my God, you're a healer!" And my hand felt very hot, and in my head it's like, But do you hear the sound of that? My dog chewing a bone because.
I do, and
Okay,
it's
okay, I
totally
got to get rid of this. Okay,
okay.
okay. I'm sorry, but no. How about no? Okay, keep talking.
Very well then. So in those moments, actually, in meeting with Raylene and having those experiences with Erik, it was kind of like just receiving a mass amount of confirmation. And through that, I looked for other mentors. I had experiences and a few sessions with some local readers.
Uh-huh.
But it was a little bit difficult for me because I really didn't know what level I was at and what I was quite capable of until Erik just basically pushed me into it. He's like, "Yeah, you see this lady, Veronica? You need to talk to her." And
Ah.
it just kind of soared from there, and I really just built a really amazing relationship with Veronica and the dynamics of her Connect School, which is
Oh
online.
my God. Okay, sorry. Keep
Mhm.
talking because I've got to get this bone out of here because now she's whining and now that was barking. Keep going. God, this is
Dogs.
so.
So through Veronica, and then also meeting meeting and getting acclimated with a few other mediums and doing spirit circles and just performing practices. I also came along and had some sessions with Kim Voight, and through some sound therapy and Kim's wonderful counsel as well, I also grew and was able to heal from many traumas that I had as well.
Good. Oh, good.
And her sound healing is amazing. And I did a spirit crossing with her. We had a lot of interesting experiences that we have shared. So it's been a really beautiful journey. I am extremely grateful for
Oh my
Erik
God, she
and
has
just
so
everything.
many. Kim has so many healing modalities.
He certainly does.
Okay,
And
well, you want to get started with part 2 of Stonehenge?
absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely. I'm excited.
we did part 1 with Denise Ramon, who was also awesome.
I have
Um,
actually had a session with Denise. I love her dearly as well.
so authentic. She's such a good soul.
Beautiful.
Okay. All right, let's see. Erik, I want to ask you, and you can bring in whoever, Anunnaki, whatever,
Yeah.
whoever you want.
The first thing he said is, I'll bring in the Arcturians because they're already here.
Oh, okay. Cool. Oh my God, it's amazing how you can bring these beings in. All right. These stones, these Stonehenge stones are so huge, so heavy. How were they built? Were they built by giants like the Nephilim giants? Some seem like they were brought, I mean, I guess geologists determine this, from Africa. So they were brought over long distances, and some seem like they were brought from local areas. Can you tell me?
Yes, so Erik is seeing that over extended periods of time, there have been a lot of extraterrestrials who have assisted in this endeavor.
Okay.
And he also wants to point out, he says, Mom, it's not just Stonehenge on Earth. And I'm asking him what he means by that. He's saying many galaxies have a version of Stonehenge.
Oh.
Okay. And what he's giving me is that there are many different varieties of extraterrestrial beings that have participated in the creation and the evolution of what Stonehenge currently is.
Uh-huh.
He's saying that, yes, he's talking about the ice ages, like through the ice ages, like there was movement of stone and rock. He's saying they also did drift from Africa. Like he's showing me like there's that movement.
Yeah.
But what he's also saying is it's not just one being. He said, yes, there were giant beings, very large beings, but he's saying it's like a collective, like they worked as a team. It would be like the construction of a New York City skyscraper where there's different people for different components of the design and structure, the architecture of the building. So.
Okay. Okay, now there are two phases that were built in Stonehenge. Now there's an inner circle that apparently symbolic of the female womb, open on one side, that seems to align with the moon at, I can't remember, the something equinox, at one side to give birth to energy. Is that so? And it was the lunar cult, right? And they worship.
Erik says yes, it was a type of lunar cult, and he's saying I'm seeing the association of winter as well, so like a winter equinox, that kind of thing. And he says yes, there was a lunar cult. I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? There's a lot to it.
Oh yeah, I know. The inner circle seems to be symbolic of a female womb, open at one side to give birth to some sort of energy.
He says that, yes, that's because the mother magic is coming back. He says that.
Okay.
He says the female energy on planet Earth has been suppressed for a very long time.
Tell me about it.
He says now, he just looked at me kind of sarcastically. He's like, now's the time for y'all, like for women. Now's the time for women. He's like, we're coming up more. You're coming up more. So the women are taking more control and they're stepping forward in their power. And he says this also affects many different branches and systems of our society, of government, of how our family structures are run, of all the different components that women in general influence.
Okay.
He says effectively you'll notice a larger change in how all aspects and roles of life cater, not just cater, but he's saying more like accept more women involved in like specific industries and stuff. He's like, there's a reason for all of this because the magic, like the inner healers are coming out right now.
Okay.
And he says that there's powers beyond what men know.
Okay. Now, there's also horizontal lintels on the tops that create this circular stream of energy. And every third or fourth cycle, the energy spins off toward this heel stone, toward an outer stone. Is this like CERN, the what do you call it, the particle accelerator? So we're our ancient ancestors sending energy along ley lines to open up doorways to another dimension?
Erik says, he said, yes, they are. He's saying it's a component of CERN. He said, Mom, bigger picture. It's even bigger than that. And I'm sorry, I don't know what CERN is. So it's even larger than that, he's saying. He's saying, yes, it does have to do with the portals, vortexes, ley lines, but he's saying like he's showing me a map, like have you ever seen like a commercial where all the phone lines kind of interconnect like a huge spider web? But what he's showing me is like bullet points that just kind of expand. And he said that there's more places on the planet and other planets, that attract a deeper resonance of electromagnetic energy.
Yeah.
And he says that these particular places are places where there are large council gatherings. Now, when he says council gatherings, I'm asking him if he's talking about the Extraterrestrial Council
Oh,
gathering,
okay.
and he's
Yeah.
saying yes. He said not just councils, federations. He's saying.
Okay, well, let's see. The CERN is an organization, actually. It has, I guess, among many things, this hadron collider, particle collider, and accelerator and stuff. I don't know. It's like, I don't know, the Large Hadron Collider. All right, it's CERN, the organization and the collider and everything else it does. Was it created by the deep state to create a portal to another dimension?
Can I say that? Okay. He's saying, I got to make sure. He's saying, yes, it was. And he's also saying, but they were not successful.
Okay.
They're still trying.
Why were they doing that? I mean, I was wondering, maybe they think that the Earth is going to be destroyed when the galactic, when this whole 25,900 year galactic cycle, where every time that happens, there's some giant cataclysm. But now we're being protected, and that's not going to happen, supposedly. But the deep state thinks that's going to happen. The global elite want to go to, we're getting out of here. Let the peons die.
So I will say the first thing Erik says is, Mom, what do people always want? Power.
Yeah.
That it's all about power. He said the hierarchy of power, who's in control of humanity.
Okay.
Who's playing the game? Who's going to be the leader? Okay. He's saying that these organizations, they have manipulated millions by the masses. He says it's just it's so much manipulation on top of manipulation, and it's like showing me like lie after lie after lie that you would have to dig so deeply just to find the truth in them. Like, and I'm asking him, like, would they ever even step out? He says no, that they're fully cloaked.
You know, it's too bad. Why can't people just be nice and good? Anyway, we'll go on.
He says experience, Mom. It's the experience. We have to have balance.
We have to have the yin and the yang. Mm-hmm. Do the stones in Stonehenge influence time or manipulate time, since time can bend forward and backwards?
So the first thing Erik shows me is a Stargate.
Oh, cool.
Okay, and he says yes, but not in the human way you think. Okay, so what he's saying is that time can only be manipulated to a certain extent, and there's many variables, he says. Okay. So it's like because of the people participating and the beings, not just people, but beings participating in that particular contract or like cosmic play out. Okay. But he says, yes, it is active. It is like a Stargate. And he says, that's why I started off saying that there are other types of Stonehenges.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because maybe there's one Stonehenge here and one here, and another dimension, another part of the galaxy. And maybe it has to be a certain equinox. I don't know. Maybe that's why aliens can go from here to there by bending space-time.
Yes, he's talking about like a blink. And so like, it happens so quickly, like before we would even blink it happens so fast. He says it's like portal jumping, like the movie Sliders. It's just a movie that popped in my head showing. He says it happens so quickly, it's like they can be anywhere at any time, any place. He's like, but there's rules. He says they can't always interfere, but they can observe and collect information, which is why there are lots of activity from extraterrestrials and also ETs that are currently on this planet that are living like interplanetary beings. He says that when there are gatherings at these energetic points, that the people are collectively evolving. They have chosen to evolve with the energies at these places during specific times of the year and during specific gatherings.
Well, does it have to be like a Stonehenge type pattern, or can they be just vortices of some sort? Energy portals.
He said there's different types of energy portals, but for this, it's larger scale.
Okay.
This is like much grander. He's talking about just I'm feeling electric. It's like the magnetic power, like the electromagnetic power is so strong in these places that could it change your, he says it could almost change your DNA structure.
Wow.
Is what he's saying. Like it can manipulate certain things. And he's also saying that many of these sites, he said not just Stonehenge, but there's other extraterrestrial sites on the planet, such as like the pyramids and he's showing me like different I guess that's like Mayan temples and like the temples that are like in Mexico. He's saying that they all have specific properties and specific reasons for being there, but he's saying they harness certain energies for different levels of beings.
Oh.
Okay.
In Antarctica, there's a lot of UFO activity there too, right? And pyramids, I think, right?
Yes, and he's also saying that he's saying that there's things underneath the glaciers in Antarctica too that act similar to the electromagnetic portal and vortexes and such that are found in Stonehenge as well. He says that they all play their part, but Stonehenge is most well known. He says it's a higher active site area. There's more high traffic coming in there.
And it's also, I guess, dependent on the ley lines and nodes in the earth.
He says yes, and he also says no. And what he means by that, he's showing me, he's basically saying, okay, I know small human mind. He shows me like small human mind, like it's a lot for us to get. But he says there's just so much more. It's like the level of, I understand, Eric. Eric's telling me, he's like, level of comprehension.
Dumb it down for us.
He says, okay. Basically, it's like having one really huge magnet and then all of these tiny magnets. And when that huge magnet sweeps over the tiny magnets, they get stuck, but they never cover the whole entire magnet. Okay. It's just like having pieces, but it's like they're missing something. And Stonehenge is like one of those components where it is so massive, so huge, where the energy is so intense that's why so many of these different beings from different planets and obvious. Okay, yeah, I know. And Eric is saying like, remember, not the universe, multiverses. I'm like, okay, Eric. The multiverses that they populate there. But he says it's very incognito at times.
Okay. And they are a little bit dependent on the alignment of like planets and the sun, hence the equinoxes and the solstices have a place, in this whole thing.
He says definitely, and what he's showing me is the rotation of the Earth.
Oh yeah.
So he says it's based upon the rotation of the Earth, and he's showing me a sundial, like as it follows and as there's rotations of sun, moon, Earth, like he's showing me like the shadows of the Earth and where they fall. because we do get a lot, well, obviously so much energy from the sun as well. He's saying that all of these components work together. That is what makes this so high energy.
Yeah.
You don't get this in every single site, he says, like in every
Exactly.
single energetic site.
Okay, I want you to explain, because you explained to me in our first session, which was personal questions, why you have that tick. It's related to Erik. So, and you always
Yes.
have it when you channel him.
Yes. So because I am a trance channeler, and because I'm very clairsentient, I feel Erik, and Erik half steps into my body. And when he's sitting either beside me, I'm hearing him, but sometimes he just half steps into my body, and I pretty much feel like he utilizes my vocal cords. And also, it's a sign of, from my understanding, it's like a sign of his Tourette's.
Yes,
And
because he used
so,
to have ticks. Yeah.
right. And so also, I have multiple sclerosis. And so I believe, and he's saying, yeah, he does. He plays off of that as well, because I have certain feelings in my body, and it's much easier for me to feel him in my chest and neck area. So he just does that to me. And so he will occasionally, well, actually all the time, he makes me do it. He causes me,
Oh.
he ticks my throat, or my ears will kind of wiggle, or my eyes blink. Sometimes I feel like my tongue kind of hits the top of my roof of my mouth. He does play with my lips. I know that sounds weird, but he makes them like pouty sometimes. I'm like, Erik, stop that.
Oh. Well, Erik, do you think she would benefit by low dose naltrexone? They use that with for multiple sclerosis all the time.
So he says yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to send you the link. I'll send you the link after this. All right, let's go on. What place does the stone's alignment with Saturn have to do with our space-time reality?
So what he's showing me, he's saying, Mom, it's not just Saturn. There's multiple planets that play a role in this. He says, I don't want you to get hung up on Saturn.
No, I'm not. I'm going to ask about others too.
And because he's saying, like, so he's talking about the rings of Saturn hold a specific energetic vibration. He's showing me his guitar now, like when you strum the strings.
Oh yeah.
So it's within like the rings. So he says like there's a vibration that they also hold.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
And he says that greatly affects the like the tone. He's showing me the tones and the pitches of, like, you know, musical notes and where they strum on a guitar. But he says it's the same with the rings of Saturn.
Okay. Okay. Why is Saturn considered a destructive planet with darker resonances? It's kind of like,
he says because it has a combination of like the components that it's made out of, the gases that it's made out of. He says that there's many. He says that they're very lethal, and humans don't even have a concept of those particular chemical components or gaseous aspects. He's saying that we wouldn't be able to survive or be able to even sustain being on the too close to the outer realm of the planet.
Okay.
So that's interesting. Never knew that.
Okay. Okay, well, they say that Saturn is actually a feminine sign, but a masculine deity. It's considered tough love, pruning limbs to stimulate growth. It's a harsh taskmaster. Sometimes we need a little toughness to grow to our full potential. Saturn imposes the limitations on time and space. And it's
Okay,
all
and as you said that, Mama Lisa, Erik brought in Albert Einstein.
oh, cool. Okay.
Because
Hello, Birdie.
and he says hello, and he's very formal. He says hello. It must be the whole time and space thing. Um, so Albert is his energy is right here, and Erik is right here, and so he's kind of he's so funny. He's very flirtatious, I will tell you that much.
Oh yeah, he's known to, yeah.
And so he is saying that that there's oh, interesting. Okay, he's talking about a black hole that is on one side of Saturn that is unseen. And he says that there is energies that are not identified or known, and that there are energies on that side of that like black hole that aren't frequently traveled or not traveled at all, even by extraterrestrials, because they pose some sort of threat, some sort of danger.
Okay.
He's talking about how he's talking about the way that light travels, and he says that there's, because of the distance and because of the gas, like the compounds, the makeup, certain light should not travel through there. It would almost cause like explosions, he's showing.
Okay.
So that's why it's considered very like destructive, because it does have a dark side to it, and it has like that hidden black hole in it.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
all right, thank you, Dr. Einstein. So it is a feminine side, but it's tough love, masculine deity, right?
Yes.
What sort of limitations does it pose on time and space? I don't know what that
He
means.
said none that would
Be bad.
none that would greatly affect us right now. He's saying
Okay.
he's saying it's kind of like out of the realm, out of the human.
It's the ones that we're experiencing now, I guess, as humans.
He says yes. He says what we're experiencing. Sorry, back to Erik. Erik says what we're experiencing is the energy of the change, or the energy of the circulation, of the energy of the rotation. He says we're not necessarily experiencing the full-on inter-energy of the rings themselves.
Okay. All right. Is Saturn? Oh, Saturn is also known as the seventh sphere, which is the highest point on the world soul. I don't know what that is. The point where eternity becomes creation. What does that mean?
Okay, he says there is some truth to that. Because I was asking him, I was like, is this a human question or is this real deal? He says there is some truth to that, but he's also giving me the feeling, and he's kind of saying like it's also like out of realm. It's beyond our knowing. It's like going somewhere and driving blindly. He's showing me, like, you know that there's a road underneath your feet, but you're driving blindly and you don't see the road itself or the course that you're taking or navigating.
Okay. So we talked about earlier that we go through these, like the humans go through not the bronze, stone, bronze, whatever, iron, and whatever age, but it's different. It's the soul evolution, and ultimately we get to the golden age, and then there's a cataclysm. It's when the solar plane dips beneath the, well, I don't know, it was in part one, I can't remember. It is said that Saturn is the ruler of the golden age. Is that true? Look at part 1. You'll see it.
Says not quite, no.
Okay. What is it the ruler of?
He said brute force change.
Oh, okay. Cool. Okay.
Humans think of the different ages in terms of what we know as far as like, he showed me kind of like carbon dating things.
Yeah.
But he says it's just like it's just so beyond the scope of that. There's things that we just can't carbon date, like,
Oh, okay.
because we don't either have the knowledge to do it, the technology, the tools. Like, so he says, like, even beyond those, he said those are just human terms that we utilize so that we can differentiate. But he says those are not terms that necessarily they use in higher consciousness.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, there's this weird hexagon shape at Saturn's North Pole, just like Stonehenge, you know? Does Saturn hack into the waveform information that's transmitted via the sun that then broadcasts some sort of reality? This is all from the Gaia thing. It's so cool. Gaia's so awesome.
Yeah, so there's a few parts to that question. So he said Saturn affects us in subtle ways, in ways that we okay. So he's giving me the feeling, and what he's saying is that we're putting too much emphasis on this particular planet when there's other planets that affect us more.
Yeah.
He's saying, such as, like, let's say for example, he's trying to rotate it into this, and he's saying, like, let's say for example, like Neptune or Pluto, you know, or like other planets. He's like, there's planets that are unknown and unnamed that affect us as well, that are unseen. He said,
Ooh.
he's saying certain planets are even cloaked. Are you saying they're cloaked in our galaxy? He says they're cloaked in our
galaxy.
He says they're cloaked in our galaxy, and they're cloaked in our solar system.
Oh. Okay.
He's showing me that they are stars unseen also. And there's like, he's so funny because like when I see things, he shows me like Sith Lord from like Star Wars is really funny.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
what he's also saying with that is that some of these planets have more nefarious extraterrestrial beings as well.
Oh, geez. Okay, what were the main types of aliens to build Stonehenge? You mentioned the Arcturians, right? And the Nephilim giants. Any others?
Giants, yes. He's saying avians as well.
Okay.
Pleiadians.
Okay.
Centaurians.
Okay.
Beings from Sirius. He said many have had a turn. He can keep.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Says,
now
he's still saying sorry, he's talking fast. He's talking about the blue avians in particular. He's saying the blues. And when he says blue avians, like he's showing me like their wings, like they have meeting places. They meet above Stonehenge.
Oh.
It's like because the energy goes up high enough where they don't have to fully come down. It's like they have like council meetings above the actual shape or the actual structure, the energetic point above it, he's saying. That's fascinating.
Cool. So they probably had some sort of ability to control gravity to help build this, right?
He says yes. He says the abilities that they have are Albert Einstein is laughing. He says beyond the human concept of gravity.
Oh, I bet.
Because he says because you know, these beings have powers to it's basically like a higher evolved level of telekinesis, where they can think things into existence as well. And he's saying that there have been modifications done over the years to
Wow. Cool.
it didn't initially start off this way, and the energy from the site wasn't initially at this level or this strong.
Okay. All right. Now, we're getting to the end. Well, we'll have to make the questions a bit shorter, I guess, Eric. So now, did reptilians or another alien race add sarsen stones to try to gain control of the region and of humanity? And did they build a replica site on Saturn to get through this portal to Pleiades?
So yes, they helped build the sarsen stones. They did have involvement in that, and he says not quite on the portal to Pleiades on Saturn.
Okay.
He says that was a different destination, he says.
Oh, okay. Someone said that they would have had to have the code to get through that portal, kind of like the TSA. Is the same true of Stonehenge? There had to be some code to access it?
He says yes. That's why initially he was showing me like Stargate. If you ever see like the movie Stargate, they have to have like certain, he's showing me like certain codes or symbols like lining up. And he says that not everyone is privy like to these.
Okay.
There was an agreement, he says.
Oh, okay. Oh,
And
did any Earthlings help with the Stonehenge?
he says yes, they did.
Okay.
There was a time, he says, but what we know as Earthlings, he said, we have evolved so much from what that initial earthly type being
Yeah, maybe
was.
pre-Adamites, maybe, or Adamites, or
he's giving me the feeling like even before that, like
wow.
we even knew.
Okay. Okay, well, near Stonehenge on military property, there are long mounds, some earthen mounds, and some with megalithic chambers. One of the largest seemed like it was meant for 100 people, but it was meant for burial of one. A woman living 4.5 thousand years ago, traced back to Cambridge, a person with a very elongated skull. She was murdered, and in all the other mounds, there were beings with elongated skulls. All were murdered. What's going on there?
First thing I heard was Anunnaki.
Oh, well, yeah. Why were they murdered?
He's laughing. He's laughing as he says, because they were evil.
Were they followers of Enlil or Enki?
He says they were followers of Enki, actually.
So Enlil killed followers, probably killed them, right? Meanies.
He says not quite, but there's something to that. He just said that's another video.
Okay. Were they truly doing something not good?
He says yes, they were screwing around with technology.
Ooh, okay. All right, so there's been this battle going on for millions of years between various ET beings and the demigods vying for power. It's always apparently been a part of what's happening on Earth. So the alignment of Saturn has everything apparently to do with that war that's been going on between the Pleiadians and the reptilians. True or false?
Erik says this is true.
Okay. When is that ever going to end? And they're supposed to be so, been around for so long. Why haven't they evolved? I mean, why is it still going on?
He says it's their refusal to give up power and control.
Well, that doesn't sound very spiritually evolved.
Hmm?
Is that ever going to end?
He tells me yes, but not in our lifetime.
Well, what's it going to take?
He rolls his eyes and he's like, the expansion of more conscious beings.
Okay. Some people never learn. All right. This scientist, Dr. Maxwell, wrote this poem to hide the truth about Saturn until humanity evolved more. Ye cubic surfaces by 3s and 9s draw around his camp. Your 7 and 21 line, the seal of Solomon in 3 dimensions. Is that the representation of the Stonehenge on Mars? Is that some sort of code?
He says, yes, it is a representation and it is definitely a code. And he's showing me, he's like, there's lots of codes, but he says, yes. And what he's getting at too, he's showing me more about Mars. He's just saying that Mars just has so many vortexes and like portals. It's one of those, it's like, he says, like a pit stop for extraterrestrials. It's so high frequency too, like they're always in and out of there.
Well, what's the secret? Or can't you tell us because we're not evolved yet enough?
I asked him, can you tell me what the secret is? He said no, and he went like this.
Oh gosh, okay, maybe one day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That it'd be too much, and he said it might get us in trouble.
Okay, forget it. What is the significance of the monolithic obelisks all over the world at the 33rd parallel? Maybe that's what that by the 3s and the 9s draw around its camp.
So the monolithic obelisk, he's saying, what he's saying is they harness power. Okay, they don't necessarily provide power, but they hold power. And he's showing me like spaceships and other things. He's being really funny. He's like when you fill up on gas, like fuel, where you get petrol or something.
Yeah.
He said that these shapes, these obelisks, and I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with them, but he's showing me spaceships like flying over them, waiting, and then going away, almost as if like when a military airplane gets fueled in the sky.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing. That's what he's showing me, and he says this is why.
Were they built by aliens or extraterrestrials or humans or both?
He said the ETs.
Cool. So I'm going to look that up. Cool.
He's also saying, in addition to that many humans used to praise and worship around some of these sites as well.
Did what?
What many humans would kind of like worship or praise or like around some of these sites, some of these shapes for some reason.
Wow. Okay. Now there are stones underneath, like the stones of Baalbek. They used as a launch pad. Baalbeck. Wait, stones underneath the Obelisks. I think I wrote this so long ago.
Whatever it is, he's telling me yes, and they are utilized as a launch pad. This is correct, he's saying.
Okay. Now there are deep holes in Mexico that are now swimming holes, but they look like they were carved out precisely as if it's a silo for a spaceship or a rocket, like a, like a launching silo. It's really weird. I've seen pictures.
He's being funny. Okay, so he's showing me that there's places where some of the spaceships would hide. And when he shows me this, he says, think about X-Men, how there's a airplane underneath the ground coming up. He says
Yeah.
it's the same deal. It's like not detectable always by he says, okay. He says in the time when they were used, they were not detectable by camera, like they weren't being watched or they
Okay.
weren't being observed, so that
Yeah.
they were more accessible. In essence, they were like hidey holes
Okay.
for these methods of extraterrestrial transport.
Oh, so they were not U.S. military thing or Mexican military. They were all extraterrestrial.
He says, yes, majority are extraterrestrial. He says some of them have been, he said some of the military has tried to replicate some of these sites. And so there are various sites, but not all of them were made by the extraterrestrials or have the same like energetic resonance there.
Okay. Wait, what did they have a special energy to them?
Says yes, some of these he's showing me like caverns and like he says some of them have special energetic attunements. He says that's why many of them are close to water also, because of the vibration, the
Oh,
way that they can utilize water to energize as well.
oh,
In using water, he shows me like, you know how we have like hydraulic
yeah.
energy, like they can utilize that as well. He says that some beings as they travel, and this is for years ago when these sites were even more so active, they would utilize these areas to, in essence, like recharge, because
Okay.
he's giving me the feeling too that there's different methods of fueling or providing energy to these crafts, to these modes of transportation for them.
Now, did the Mexican government uh, retrofit them or actually replicate them?
He's saying they actually were able to replicate some.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Now the
He says, but the caveat is they don't have the same
Oh
energetic
no, no.
levels to them. So
Yeah.
someone like, he's saying like, so healers or people who are more open in consciousness would know when they enter a place that is significant like this, because they would feel the energy upon entry.
Yeah. Uh, did the ETs use it for rockets or spacecraft?
He says they used it for spacecrafts.
I figured. Now these caverns, they were offshoots inside the silos, right?
He says yes.
And they filled with
And
water?
some of them, he says some of them were direct also. And what he's showing me is many of them could submerge. Like
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, so in Pumapunka, local history says beings came from the sky, erected these 850-ton stones in one day, then left, taking their equipment with them. Who and why? I got two more questions.
So Erik says this is not true.
Oh, okay. What is it? What are these 850-ton stones? Or maybe they are made by ETs, but it wasn't in one day.
Because they are made by ETs.
For what purpose?
I'm asking him if he could provide me with more information on the purpose. But again, can you tell me? he said too much information.
Okay.
He's going like this.
Again, with his lips zippered.
Mhm.
Now, Mercury is also found in the above location in Pumapunka, and it's thought that when you put Mercury into a vortex, it creates an anti-gravitational field. I've heard that, and I've heard that this is what makes these flying saucers that spin be able to fly. Is that true?
Erik says, yes, it's true. And as you were saying that, he is showing me like, he's being funny, but he's also making reference to like the Bermuda Triangle. And
Okay.
he's showing me that not only do they fly, do they spin, but he's saying they disappear. He says there's a transition into other dimensions and he says other alternate realities.
Okay, because so not only does it create a vortex, but that vortex can take you into another dimension. Okay. So
yeah, and I'm seeing like layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. Like it's so deep.
Wow. Does that Mercury come from Earth or another planet?
It says another planet.
Okay. Is there a monolith on Mars like the image shows? And if so, is it the remnants of an ancient space program there?
He says there is another monolith on Mars, and I'm not getting that it's from an ancient space program. He says it's not ancient if it's still happening.
Oh, so it's going on. What is it? Is it a space program?
He's showing me that there's building sites going on.
Okay.
There's still building sites. He says, Mom, think about the other side of the moon.
Oh, okay. So on Mars, we're talking about Mars. What's going on Mars?
So he says that there's still building and there's high traffic areas.
By
and
ETs or us?
By
us?
That's by ETs.
Okay.
He says not really, not by us. He's like, that's a dream that we have.
Okay.
That many have. He says, but they won't get to like accomplish that. He says like that they can't attain that level of knowledge yet. Like we're just not there.
On the other side of the moon, is there a space program there too?
Erik says yes, there is a space program there. He says there's multiple structures, and he says it's kind of like a pit stop area. He's showing me like, when when like rigs come in and like fuel up, hang out, have a bite to eat. He says there's like, it's a pit stop area. There's social areas there too, but they're masked, they're hidden.
And that's only ETs?
He says yes, it's only ETs. He says humans have not fully engaged in that. And he's also saying that humans have curiosities. I'm asking him if they have encountered them fully.
Okay.
He said it's like, he's showing me like going out west, how there's like the old gold miners towns where there's like remnants of things where people be.
Yeah.
He says humans will find things like that, but not the active sites, he says.
Okay. Ooh. Well, eventually we will. All right. I guess I do have time for one more question. Why does Elon Musk want to take 80,000 people to Mars on a one-way trip? I mean, what would a billionaire, why would he want to leave Earth and live in tents?
Erik just said ego.
Oh, really? I mean, does he think this, how there've been every 25.9 thousand years has been these cataclysms? Does he think that this is going to happen and he wants to take himself, his family, the global elite, etc.?
Absolutely. He says he says there's specific members he would take if he could from the elite, and he says yes, that he says this is like a really big, it's giving me the feeling like it's a big pipe dream.
Yeah.
But he won't have that following. Like he won't have that many people who will follow him. And he says also, he says, who could afford that right now? It would only be, it wouldn't be like common people. It would be like the upper echelon. And he's saying like, but it would be like a fraction of that.
Yeah.
A very
Hey,
small.
we'll just move into their rich penthouses and all that stuff. They can take their tents and shove
Sure.
it. I mean, you know, the ETs, they're going to protect us. They're going to see to it this time. We are not going to be destroyed by cataclysm. That's what Erik told me, right?
Erik says that they are constantly working to help us evolve, protect our planet, and transition us into a state of higher being.
Yep.
He's saying that this is why everything in current time is happening. He says, think about it, Mom. Think about how great the earth is starting to feel again.
Yeah. Y'all, send love to Mother Earth and find ways to raise your own vibration. Live in love, not in fear. We're all
Absolutely.
okay.
Fear is the absence of love.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Erik. I love you. Stephanie.
Erik goes like this. Thank you, Mama. I love you too. And I love you. And thank you for.
I love you too. This was awesome, Stephanie. The first of many. Stephanie, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So you can actually visit my website. So my name is Stephanie Enora Perez, and you can visit enorascorner.com. You can also check out my business page on Facebook. You can Google me. I have a huge digital footprint. And yeah, I'm open for sessions. I host private sessions. And one of the things that I work on too is I work with gifted children, so parents and gifted children together, and I hope to also host what I like to call baby psychic spirit circles.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'll put all that information here.
Fabulous.
And your Facebook is Enora's Corner, right?
Enora's Corner LLC. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Talk to you later, peeps.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.